This past Saturday, AEW ended its world in Long Island, New York. AEW World's End happens. We have a new AEW World Champion, Samoa Joe. And to help me break it all down, as well as a few other things, bringing in a good friend of mine, the man behind the Haus of Wrestling, as well as co-host of the Rumor and Innuendo podcast with Robert Carpellis. You get it wherever you get your podcast. It is my good friend, Nick Hausman. Nick, so how are you?
I'm great, Stu. I'm wonderful. It's been a very eventful, colorful 72 hours or 96. I'm not really sure at this point. Time is a flat circle. But I'm very happy to be here, Stu. I always enjoy getting to chat with you.
As you. All right, before we get to World's End, I gotta ask, because of course this was a story that you broke. So, and this was
kind of
it was I believe it was on the Rumor and Innuendo podcast last week. Late last week, you referred to allegations against Chris Jericho.
Well, I'll stop you right there.
Okay, yeah,
and because I really do feel like there's been a lot of very poor misconstruing of this entire situation. People seem to have jumped onto a narrative about what happened here online that I really don't think is been totally fair. So I made a crack at Chris on Christmas morning when he was acting like a idiot and trying to bully Ace Steel's wife and all this stuff. I was tired of it. I was just tired of seeing him acting like this, always creating problems for people and stirring the pot. And so I made a crack that I knew would hit because I know Chris. And it could have just been that, could have just been Nick made an NDA crack at Chris Jericho, whatever that was, and then we all move on. But Chris decided to block me on social media, and I shared that. I was like, all right, well, here's how this guy thought of that, which created its own kind of narrative, right? My concerns, my dislike of Chris, the reason there was the NDA crack was just because, like I said on the show, I just think Chris is, not my favorite kind of person. A lot of people told me a lot of negative things about Chris, and the dam broke, and whatever people said came out. I just don't think it would be a good look, and that's just my personal opinion, right? Just based off a lot of stuff people tell me. They're like, whatever. But that right there immediately led to people talking about other things that Chris has been alleged, right? I didn't allege anything. I just said, This guy's got skeletons in his closet, I think. That led to a lot of people talking about other things on social media that Chris may or may not have done, right? Which then became the subject of question of a chant at World's End and questions in the media scrum, which were far more pointed than anything I said on the show, right? Mm-hmm. So I just gave everybody my 2 cents. I if I don't like somebody, if I don't think they're my cup of tea, that's just my opinion. A lot of other people seem to have their own opinions about Chris in that situation, but all of the other stuff about who thinks Chris did what or where, that's nothing I got into. That's stuff that is just kind of coming out, and again was, that's just what that was.
Okay, and I get that. Now I don't know Chris. I've interacted with him a couple times backstage when AEW was here in Austin, and both times he was a pleasure to talk to. He and I talked about, health after the age of 50, because we're both over 50.
Sure.
So, again, the very, very limited contact I've had with Chris Jericho, it's fine.
Sure.
And there is a little something about wrestlers of the for lack of a better term, generation of Chris Jericho without it sounding like painting with a broad brush. There are probably skeletons in a lot of wrestlers' closets. Would that be a fair statement?
I mean, I think that this industry has proven time in and time out that we never know all the details around. You know, these are professional actors, right? It's very easy to project one thing up front and be an either, just a different person behind the scenes. The Undertaker's not a dead man walking around. He's a family man who likes dogs and guns and beer, it looks like, I guess. I don't know. Whiskey.
Yes. Yeah, he does. He does love his whiskey.
Yeah.
I guess the thought is, okay, how is there? I guess I don't really know where to go with that.
Yeah, I mean,
is there something that you want to see, or is this simply a matter of you made a joke, it was taken wrong, it got blown up, and so on?
I mean, look, what would I like to see? I think on Rumor and Innuendo earlier, we talked about, how pro wrestling companies having independent HR departments, I think would be very good. But that was more in light of Tony's comment about how people should feel welcome just to come to him if there's ever a problem or whatever, which can be complicated in the workplace. Yeah, man, like I really just wasn't digging what Chris was putting out that day. No. I have not personally been a fan of Chris's for a while, and I just couldn't really deal watching him push people around. And, so I tweeted what I tweeted. And, and again, like when you say you broke this story, it's like, I made a crack, Chris, but this whole thing has spiraled in a way that, I mean, obviously there's no way I could have ever known it would have become, what it is now,
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. I mean, and I get that. I guess at least right now, let it be what it was, what you just described today.
Yeah.
Until something more substantial comes out, or if
Well, I mean, it's kind of, I think, it's for people at this point to kind of discern, what's come of it. I wasn't thrilled with Tony Khan's performance, at World's End afterwards and addressing the situation. So, I mean, and it's really I think it's gonna kind of come down to how the fans, what they want to see come of it, right? It would seem AEW and Jericho were caught off guard at World's End by the reaction that Chris got, because they just sent him out there and just tried to pretend, it was going to be all right, and you got Ricky flipping him off and Darby, calling him a POS at the top of the entrance ramp. And it was just a wild scene, man. So we'll see, right? I just was tired of it. And again, it's just my personal opinion that, the guy was creating issues and just wanted to, say something. That's it.
Fair enough. Let's talk about World's End. Samoa Joe defeating MJF. He is now the new AEW World Champion. We also had the reveal. The devil was, in fact, Adam Cole, and his henchmen being the Kingdom and Roderick Strong and Wardlow, which that's a choice. Give me your thoughts for a moment. And I was watching it live, and for a moment, when Bryce Remsburg went down to check, Max's hand, when it dropped the third time, Bryce had this look on his face. Now I could totally be reading. I probably am totally reading way too much in it, but it felt like at that moment the match wasn't supposed to end then. Maybe they were supposed to go another 5 minutes or whatever. Or it could have been just simply Bryce is a fantastic actor and ref, and he played his part to a T. Give me
Yeah.
give me your thoughts on Samoa Joe as the world champion and how that all went down.
Yeah. The ending, was really weird, for sure. The finish with Joe winning, with the technical submission like that, it came across very flat, right? It came across very flat. I think people were very confused by it. They weren't expecting it, but at the same time, Max had been beaten up. He talked about how beat up he was. Joe had attacked him with a chair. His body just kind of collapsing like that, and Joe taking the title. I mean, it kind of makes sense. So I don't really hate it. And then I really don't dislike Adam Cole with the whatever Undisputed Kingdom plus Wardlow connection, whatever it is. It's the only thing that really made sense at this point, right? Like, it seems like it would have been, if Punk had not left and the timelines had been, different. I think fans would have really enjoyed him as the payoff for an angle kind of like this. But instead, you got this kind of big turn to what's been largely something that their fan base has really enjoyed with the brochacho stuff. And I'm a big fan of all these guys. I think Matt Taven and Mike Bennett are going to really surprise some people with some great matches here on the horizon. Roderick Strong, I have said for a long time now, has quickly become one of the most entertaining things in AEW now that he's kind of getting to show, that pit bull side of him again, that actual pro wrestler side of him, I think is really good. And look, Wardlow had a hot hand for a while, and people have been looking to see him get heated up. I know the company sees a lot of value in him. So I'm remaining optimistic on that. It was a little clunky to get here, but we'll see on the other side. I do like that they didn't give us something way off the grid, and at least it made sense what happened.
And I agree with you. I think, given the current landscape there, that made the most sense for Adam Cole to be the devil and such. I find it a little odd that Wardlow gets put in that group because they were having, they had Wardlow doing these vignettes where he wants to get at Max, as the world champion. And now that goes out the window because Max is no longer world champion. And apparently, I guess Wardlow had a hand in it. But again, it just felt, like you said, it felt a little flat. It felt a little like, oh, okay, match is over. And I'm sure that's the, it was supposed to go, Samoa Joe was supposed to go over. I don't know if it was going to if it was meant to happen right at that moment, or again, maybe a different finish or whatever. And you may be right. It may have been simply Max's injuries. We know he is legit injured. He's taking time off. According to a lot of reports, he's going to take some time off to heal. And so maybe it made sense for him to collapse.
Show could have just gone long too, Stu. That was a long show.
Yes.
Right? I don't know exactly when they made the call, because you had to get to the finish, and then you had to do this reveal afterwards too, and make sure to give that time for how you wanted to see it play out. So I agree, there may have been a little wonkiness on that finish. I mean, I think the technical submission, the blood from a stone type moment was always what Max wanted. Maybe it didn't come off like he anticipated. But yeah, could have been cut a little short. That was a long show, man. That scrum went all night, man. That was a barn burner. That was too much.
You and I have been part of a lot of those scrums, and these things, whether it's AEW, Ring of Honor, they all go long, and then the scrums go long. I was at the one for Final Battle up in Garland, and it was 40 minutes with FTR and Mark Briscoe, and I love those guys to death. I love the passion, I love the conviction, but 40 minutes just for them. And that was the first, and that was the first group we got to talk to, and you had 3 or 4 more. And I think you and I texted. I didn't leave the Curtis Colwell Center until 1:30 in the morning to drive back to Austin, which is about a 3-hour drive. So
Time out. Side conversation with the media scrums real fast because I'm with you. Like, and I want to be like, because I was somebody that fought really hard. Obviously, I'm somebody that's fought really hard for access to the big companies so that we could do a better job of covering the business. And I don't want to complain about getting access, right?
Agree.
Because it's an honor to just be able to get in there and be able to communicate with these people on a one-on-one level and understand the business, more intimately on that way. That said, man, 1 hour time limit on media press scrums. I am all about it, right? Like WWE, WWE, their media, I think their press conferences are always like, it's like a type 45. It's not even an hour, right? You get like,
you get like what 3-4 questions per person, and that's it, and then
yeah,
and it's over,
and that's fine.
and it's clean.
Yeah. As long as I
Everything's
get
fine.
like one or two, maybe three overall, where I could be like, okay, these are big names. I got a little bit of content, you know, didn't get them this time. I'll be back next time kind of deal. I'm fine with that, right? I'm totally fine with that because the big stuff in the first 3-4 questions, I mean, depending on the person, right? It's usually covered. That's an hour. You can do it in an hour.
You
That's
could,
all.
and again,
Yeah.
and I don't want to discourage Tony Khan from being, I guess, as accessible as he is,
Right.
giving as much
Yeah.
time. Look, I applaud Tony for that. It's one of the really cool things that we've gotten to experience. You and I've been in press conferences for sports, and we know kind of the boundaries of those, whether it's the NFL, the NBA, or baseball, Formula One, whatever. So to get it in pro wrestling, it is a wonderful experience. It would just be nice if maybe it wasn't quite as long sometimes, but I get it.
Mhm.
Eddie Kingston defeats John Moxley in a fantastic Continental Classic final. So he has the Continental Crown, this modern American Triple Crown, whatever. Uh, just that was in the story that both the Classic told and then what that match told. I think that is for I don't, but that is what one of the things AEW does best is that kind of thing where it's the story in the story. Just talk about Eddie Kingston winning the Continental Classic.
It's great. Big fan of Eddie and his work. I think that it's deserving. When they tell you we're going to take your titles off you, right? World championships that you've dedicated your career to. And they're like, we promise you're going to get them back. We're even going to give you another one. And you're like, okay. Then you get into this tournament and things can change on the fly. And I'm just happy Eddie got his belts back. It would have been really, really, a bummer story, right? You become world champion and then like you never lose it; it just gets taken from you, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was very fulfilling. It was very full circle. I'm excited to see Eddie as a Triple Crown champion. I know AEW ROH is like the same, and but New Japan is just outside. And knowing how much Eddie really loves Japanese style, strong style, and like what the All Japan Triple Crown represents, and just other Triple Crowns. I think he's going to embrace it and be a really good traveling champion for them. I think he's going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, I do agree. Speaking of Triple Crowns, and I was trying to research this a little bit earlier today.
Sure.
I think so. Samoa Joe is now the AEW World Champion. I think he is at least the first wrestler of the modern era to win an American Triple Crown of world titles, because he was the TNA World Champion, the Ring of Honor World Champion, and now the AEW World Champion.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find a wrestler, at least in the last 20, 30 years, to accomplish something like that. At least not like when WWE had, they had the WCW and ECW under their banner. But even with that, I couldn't find anybody else that can claim that feat, and definitely not going back to the days of WWF, NWA, AWA.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
AJ Styles comes to mind. As
well,
somebody
but I
who
don't think AJ never became the Ring of Honor World Champion.
no, was he not? Was he not Ring of Honor champion?
No, no.
Oh, I thought in my head he was.
Yeah, that was the first name that came to my mind. But no, he won the IWGP, so he had the New Japan. But I'm talking 3 American promotions. So
Yeah,
if you go to 3 American promotions, I don't think it's happened. At least not
I
in
mean,
the not recently.
I'm trying to think of like NXT champions, right? Because I feel like there's a couple guys that may have come in
Well,
and
see, that's the thing. If you want to do that, then he's got the Grand Slam because Samoa Joe was NXT champion.
that's true. Samoa Joe was an NXT champion. No, I mean, look, dude is as decorated as they come, and he's going to be a great champion for him too. When he was on top at TNA and held that title for so long, the moment that Kurt Angle came into TNA, that's what jump started really the success of that company. The goldenest of golden eras for TNA was built around Joe.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see it. Again, it's going to be very different with Max not being around. I mean, I guess he could be wily and cantankerous, like walking around with a cane and in a wheelchair or something. But it sounds like, by all accounts, the guy's going to be taking some time off, going to be off TV. And, if you're tracking the quarterly hour viewership each week, when Max is on TV, the show does better, right? He gets that crowd. He is a carnival barker. He knows how to bring people in when he's on television. I will be interested to see how the vibe, the tone, the presentation of AEW kind of morphs here, around this.
Let me ask you this: who do you think Samoa Joe's first challenger is? And is it? Are we going to wait until Revolution, or could it come sooner?
Samoa Joe's first challenger.
Not
Well,
necessarily who would take the title off of him, but just
sure.
his first title match.
Well, you got this devil and his crew who made it. Joe made a deal with the devil. I guess you could always see, because I would think, is Joe, is he going to be a heel, or is he going to? I mean, I guess he's kind of been a lot.
Well, see,
right?
that's kind of the funny thing. So I'm thinking Samoa Joe, and in the heel face waters get a little muddy because of how over they are. Samoa Joe is definitely over. I think a lot of people are thinking Swerve Strickland's going to be the man that takes the title off of him. That Swerve's going to be a champion in 2024. He's over too. I mean, you heard his match with Dustin Rhodes, and look, again, full disclosure, Dustin Rhodes is a dear friend of mine. I work for him at his Rhodes Wrestling Academy. But to hear the crowd cheering for Swerve the way he was, and he's playing his part as a heel, and yet the crowd's cheering him.
Yeah.
It makes me think, okay, I'm thinking the title change is going to happen with Swerve taking the title from Joe. You've got allegedly heel versus heel, but again, but by the same token, 2 incredibly over individuals going against each other.
Well, yeah, I would think Swerve and Joe would be like Revolution in March, right? Like the first opponent or challenger he has is maybe like a Darby Allin or somebody like that. That's staying safe, that they've kind of kept somewhat hot here recently. Yeah, Swerve, I would think, because that match at World's End was weird, dude. And again, like, Dustin's always been cool to me. I'm not faulting him on this. I think it was just booked in a way that, it's just not I don't think that it's what the fans wanted for Swerve in that moment. I'll put it that way, right? They didn't want that. Yeah,
I totally, and again, Dustin got pulled in the last moment, because Keith Lee's injury. You're right. This was a last minute change. I think this was day of show change. And yeah, the crowd reacted I think the way you would expect them to react by not being able to see Swerve and Keith Lee, and instead it's Dustin Rhodes gets put in his place. The Swerve attacks him with the cinder block and busts up the leg, and then Dustin fighting back. It was. Let me ask you this: would it have been? I hate to say this, would have been a better option just to not have that match at all? In other words, Swerve just off the card, or at least have him make some appearance or whatever, but just not have the match at all.
Well, it's interesting because do we know what Keith's injury is? Is it like a knee injury or something, or like what?
I thought I saw somewhere it might be something with his legs.
With his legs, that's what I thought too.
But I haven't seen anything official. Now it makes sense. Keith Lee's 300 plus pounds. He's a beefy boy. He's those legs, could have some wear and tear on them.
Yeah, no. But what I'm getting at is they did a leg injury spot on Dustin to start that match. Like, why couldn't you have just done something where Swerve just like laid out Keith and injured him, right? And just kind of kept it at that. Like, he couldn't wait to take his revenge out. He's going to do this. He's going to attack Keith out the gate off, backstage, ringside, do the leg injury, and just leave it at that, And if Dustin wants to come out and, rally for his friend and Swerve beats him down, pretty decisively, I think the fans would have been there for that. Mm-hmm. I just don't think the fans wanted to see Swerve in a competitive match with somebody that they don't really see the history with the two of them as much as I know you want to kind of pull in the limitless.
Right. Naturally limitless. Yeah.
Naturally limitless kind of history. I just think there was a lot of stuff there that just didn't click. I would have just kept it simple with Swerve there. But maybe they needed to fill time for the show. Maybe they're like, hey, we had 20 minutes put to the side for these two. We got to fill 20 minutes with Swerve. So let's put it together. Buckle up.
I guess so. Anything else? I mean, we had Adam Copeland winning and then losing the TNT title in a span of like 2 minutes. So Christian Cage is once again the TNT champion.
I kind of liked it.
It made sense as soon as Kill Switch, Luchasaurus, whatever you want to call him. As soon as he showed up, you had a feeling that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, and like the thing about it too is it feels like they're building up to a gimmick match at Revolution, right? Which is interesting because like it was like a pay-per-view match, a pay-per-view quality match that set up, I believe, what will be another pay-per-view match between them. And it feels like, like some kind of cell type match would be appropriate here. But I mean, don't the fans want to see him do TLC, right? Isn't that the kind of
the first thing came in my mind? Yep. Him and Christian for the title TLC, or at the very least the ladder match. But if it's, I would think, given their history, it's got to be a TLC.
Yeah, totally. And then so Revolution, we're going to hang this belt over the ring, and Luchasaurus is going to be handcuffed, or Kill Switch is going to be handcuffed to the Big Little Brawlers, and that'll be that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Anything else stand out from Saturday night? You had Julia Hart successfully defend the TBS title against Abaddon. The spooky chants in the crowd that kind of made me chuckle. And I like Abaddon. I've gotten to know her a bit. She actually lives in the area. She trains at Dustin School, so I've gotten to know her a bit. Anything else that stand out from Saturday night at World's End?
I really like Timeless Toni Storm. I think her presentation is just so on point. She feels like such a big star right now. And if the rumors of Mercedes Moné coming in are true, I think that she and those two are going to have a lot of fun working together. So I just want to give some praise to Timeless Toni Storm, who I thought did a really good job. But I was happy to see CJ Perry back, especially considering the nightmare week she had leading into the show. right?
The pictures of that finger. Oh,
Could have done without those for
yes.
sure. But yeah, no, I was happy to see CJ back. Obviously Andrade leaving is a big story. Him possibly coming back to WWE. We'll
Do
see.
you
Find out what's going on. Yep.
think maybe
Go
he's
ahead.
a surprise at the Royal Rumble?
It kind of feels like that, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised we didn't see one of these AEW guys pop up on Raw. To be honest, how cool would it have been to see Shawn Spears show up and like help Cody Rhodes fend off Nakamura or something like that? Or QT Marshall.
Yeah.
Get the Nightmare.
I
What do you think? You know the Rhodes is. Do you think they get the Nightmare Factory going in WWE in 2024?
I don't think they go with QT. Just
No.
because because I there's just there's something that's not there. And so I don't think now I'm sure they will find a way to maybe loop in the Nightmare Factory, kind of like what they've done with reality wrestling with Booker T having NXT folk showing up all the time at his shows. I think they find a way to at least have some sort of loose relationship with Nightmare Factory.
I think QT's so underrated, man. I'm not gonna lie.
I
I'm a
agree.
big. I think especially like he's got the kind of Arn Anderson vibe to him already, and he's not quite he's still too pretty in some ways to kind of be fully like Arn. But man, is he like he's that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's that guy in Ric Flair's corner who just bell rings, beautiful spine buster, just ass kicker. I would like to see QT and Sean in Cody's corner. This in the the running suits, the whole thing, just like All In, the first one.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I've heard a lot of people kind of, criticize World's End a lot. I didn't think it was that bad of a show. It was long. It was probably a little too long, but I think that's the nature of AEW. They're going to have just long pay-per-views, and we just get used to it. But all in all, it was a fine show. Let me ask you this: does AEW increase the number of pay-per-views they have this coming year?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really feel like that to me, right? I mean, they could have shoehorned something in here before Revolution, and it's like it's going to be the only show in the first quarter, right? So I mean, how much more space do you really have to add shows? I think last year they kind of, especially with the addition of All In London, kind of is they're kind of it's not really like their Mania, it's more like their SummerSlam, I guess. All In, I guess, or All Out feels. I
Yeah,
don't know,
I think
or maybe Double or Nothing is like their Mania because
yeah.
that was the first pay-per-view.
Actually, it feels like maybe it's Double or Nothing is the SummerSlam, and All Out is Mania. I
Okay,
think it
but
depends
All
on the
In's the
year. I
bit.
think I've seen both shows kind of
Well, they don't.
one's over the other.
Yeah, they don't really have like a WrestleMania, right?
No.
Like, there's not like the show each year. I will depend on what they do with their media rights, obviously, right? Whatever their new partners want to do, I'm sure will play a great deal in how many shows they do per year. So I would keep watching the bouncing ball. You're more engaged with sports. How are the NBA TV rights going with Warner? Do you know?
I'll be honest, I haven't heard much. I would suspect it's probably going to go up pretty significantly because the NBA has been getting better and better ratings over the last few seasons. You're seeing, it's look, Tony Khan's right. The NFL is the juggernaut. They're just printing money. But I think the NBA is a absolutely solid number 2 as far as sports properties in the United States. And I'll dare say Major League Baseball is, I won't say a distant third, but they're third, and there's not a whole lot of chance of them catching up.
Okay.
NBA,
All
I
right.
think the NBA is making, because you're seeing more stars coming out. You see some of these young guys that are becoming stars, and so yeah, I think the NBA will garner more money going forward from both Turner as well as from ESPN. Um, and I think, I don't think I'm not as confident as some others in thinking that Turner paying for the NBA could affect how much they give AEW, because I think AEW has done well for him, as too, and I think Turner understands that between Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision, that's 5 hours of programming that they know they will get a steady audience, if not good.
Yeah. No. And
It will be steady.
I just know that Warner, at least I've heard, is not like cash. They don't have a lot of liquid cash on hand right now. And so if they go in big on the NBA TV rights, I've just been told that's going to it's going to make it very difficult for AEW or WWE, who I guess has been talking to Warner, to find any wiggle room in the Warner budget, just because of how much is being sucked up there by the NBA TV rights, especially if they go through to Warner.
I mean, and that's possible. And if that is the case, I see AEW's TV rights, whoever gets them, it's going to be a step down, honestly, because I think TBS TNT are cleared by most every cable and streaming service that there is. I saw one rumor that they would end up with Access TV, and Access TV, God bless them, they're I mean, they're not going to have enough money to take care of, to give AEW
They're not.
worth.
Access TV is would be. I mean, I don't think Access TV wants to carry Impact anymore. Just because, and they have ownership of it, but they're not making any money on it, from what I gathered. So they would, owning Impact, prefer to license it out to like someplace like the CW that they could get their return on. There's a lot of questions around Tony's relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery. Does Warner own or have some kind of investment in AEW? Right? Could a situation like that happen where they flip it to another network and they still make money back on it? From licensing out the content to another platform. The only place I've heard, and it would remain in the Warner space, that anybody's floated to me as a possibility outside of TNT and TBS, is Discovery, who is just, it's a lower tier channel in the Warner family. But look, I made a Big Little Brawlers joke a little while ago. That's a show they've got coming up about the Micro Wrestling Federation. And that's the kind of bumper material you can play just before and after. And I'm sure that for people that are just in the, scheduling side of things, they go, we got a wrestling thing over here, we got another wrestling thing over there. Maybe Discovery's not such a bad place for this thing here. And I was told that if that were to happen, it would probably be because WWE is taking TNT or TBS. But again, this is all really dependent on how much money Warner is going to be willing to pay for the NBA and how much is left to invest into pro wrestling on the other side. There's a lot of big question marks still in the air.
Yeah, I think you're right. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, last night on Raw, The Rock shows up on Raw after he takes care of Jinder Mahal, makes the reference that he's going to go get something to eat. He wants to sit at the head of the table. And of course, everybody is going nuts. They're thinking, okay, it's Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 40. Let me ask you, is it Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 40? Is it Rock and Roman at Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia? And what happens to Cody Rhodes?
I would not do Rock and Roman at Chamber. I would keep Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. It just makes sense to me, right? It's like the most anticipated match in 5 years or whatever. So to do it at any place other than your grandest stage of them all, I think would be kind of disservice to what WrestleMania is supposed to be. I know people may disagree with me on that because Cody has been so wonderful in his role, but The Rock is The Rock. People want The Rock to be president. People on both sides want The Rock to be president, right? Like, he's such a big deal. It's hard to understate how big of a match this thing could be. You know, I think they want to say this match alone generated $1 billion. It's $1 billion match right here through endorsements, through advertisements, through however else we can point to it statistically. This match here is the first ever $1 billion blockbuster box office smash in the history of professional wrestling. And they're going to go all in on it. And, you know, people may not like to hear it. Maybe Cody Roman at the Elimination Chamber before Mania, just to give everybody that bite, setting up Roman for Rock. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, so if it is Rock versus Roman at Mania, is it for the title? Because if Roman's still champion, you know they're not going to put the championship on Rock.
I think this title's on the line for sure. Like, come on, why have we done this 1,000-day reign? Why have we? Yeah, go ahead. What?
Well, I mean, but okay, we've had the 1,000-day reign. I mean, he's at what 12 something. You know, I mean, the next record that he could break is Hogan's.
The only reason to have him do this long reign and then Roman's the final, Rock's the final boss, right? Like, you got to do the Roman Rock. You got to do it for the title, and then after the match, you could finally get back to the title changing hands again. But why keep it on him? Why do this long build to just not have it be for the title? That doesn't make any sense to me. No, not at all. None.
That's why I'm, you know, and look, again, I want the titles come off Roman. It's time. It's beyond time. It's jumped the shark. So that's why I'm selfishly hoping, and because Perth, the government of Western Australia, whatever, they asked for The Rock, I'm hoping it is Rock versus Roman at Chamber, and Cody still gets his title match and wins the title in Philly at Mania 40. But who knows?
We'll see. Hey, look, Triple H has a huge announcement to make on Thursday, right? We're going to find out what it is. I got an inkling, just my gut instinct. This thing could be about whatever is going to be going on with The Rock next in WWE. Maybe I'm horribly wrong. We'll find out. But I think that, we're definitely going to be figuring out here sooner than later what the WWE has in store for Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I think you're right. He is Nick Hausman. Catch everything that he does on houseofwrestling.com and catch the Rumor Innuendo podcast wherever podcasts are available. Nick, I appreciate the time, man. All the best to you. Happy New Year. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Stu. Appreciate it.